And today I want to share with you one of my favorite Bible stories. Do you have favorite Bible stories? I don't know if you do. I think that's why there are so many Bible stories, because we are all different people. We have different experiences and talents and gifts. And certain people we connect with in the Bible. And when I was in college, I studied religion. That was one of my majors. And I got to study a lot of great Bible Bible stories, and learn about the history. And I even got to travel later after college to Israel and to see the Bible lands, which was amazing to walk in some of those places that you can imagine. Right, that Jesus walked, and the old stories back all the way to the beginning. And so today I want to share the story of Ruth. But, I'm a creative person, so I wanted to share with you her story, maybe from a different perspective you might not have ever heard. And I'm going to ask you to imagine with me now that I'm not Jennifer anymore, but that I am Ruth, okay? He knew my name. Me, a foreigner. A woman who grew up in a culture where family was often broken apart because of our religious beliefs. Our gods expected huge sacrifices from us. But he knew my name. He formed my heart as he has formed all of your hearts. Before even time began, my life, your life, was in his hands. Looking back, I can see that now, but I didn't always know it. I grew up in Moab, a nation in the mountains to the east of the Dead Sea. You could say that I grew up in a very secular home and country. Our people are descendants from Abraham's nephew, Lot. And most Hebrews would happily disown us. In fact, we are technically cousins, but they don't really like that idea. Our God was Chemosh, often known as the god called destroyer or subduer or fish god. As a girl, I saw everyone around me trying everything they could to do whatever to keep this god happy. He demanded lots of sacrifices from us, and I was always afraid that he would get angry and something bad would happen to us. Later, I learned that Chemosh was actually the exact opposite of Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews. But when I was younger, I knew nothing of Yahweh. Still, he knew who I was. He put into me and all people a desire for love, and he made families from the beginning. And although I loved my family, there was something unique about this one family that moved into our country, into our city, from across the Dead Sea, from Bethlehem. I was intrigued by the fact that they didn't worship, or they weren't even afraid of Chemosh at all. You see, Elimelech and Naomi and their 2 sons moved into Moab when they had a famine in their hometown in Bethlehem. I thought it must be hard for them to move to a new place, to be foreigners in our land, so I befriended them. They were different. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but all I knew was they did not believe in Chemosh, and they were kind to me. I didn't mind that they weren't Moabites, so when I fell in love with their oldest son, Mahlon, and he asked me to marry him, I was thrilled. I joined their family, and I was very happy. So happy, I thought my life was just perfect. But after a while, things changed. I wasn't given any children, and then my husband and his brother and his father all passed away. I was heartbroken. I cried many tears with my mother-in-law, with my sister-in-law, Orpah. And even though we were so sad, we came together as a family. We comforted each other and we were there for each other. And yes, Yahweh, He saw those tears. After some time, Mother Naomi decided to return to Bethlehem because the famine was over and it was her hometown. Orpah and I helped her pack, and we sold all the things that we couldn't pack and take with us. And finally, together, we set off for Bethlehem. We had been traveling for a while when Mother Naomi suddenly stopped. I was worried. Maybe she was too tired and needed a rest. But then she said, "Go back to your mother's homes. And may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. And may the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage." And she kissed us goodbye, and we all broke down and cried together. Both Orpah and I said, no, we are going with you. We want to go with you back to your people. But again, Mother Naomi said, "Go back to your families." It was so thoughtful of her to let us go. And finally, Orpah obeyed, and she hugged and kissed us both. And she went back. She started on her way home. After Orpah left, Mother Naomi said to me, "Ruth, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods, and you should do the same." But I couldn't leave. Something in my heart compelled me to stay. Mother Naomi needed me, and I didn't want to go back to my gods. I told her, "Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. And may the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us." Finally, she could see that I was determined, and we traveled on together to my new home. When we arrived in Bethlehem, I understood how it must have felt for Naomi, Elimelech, and the boys to come to Moab. Yes, they welcomed us back to Bethlehem because they knew Mother Naomi, but I was a foreigner. I didn't know all the customs, and of course, I was a Moabite woman from a pagan country. It was really hard to know how we were going to survive. In the late spring, I knew I had to do something to help us, to help Mother and me. So she told me, "Well, Ruth, you can go to the fields and pick up the leftover barley that isn't harvested." I wasn't sure about it, but I knew I had to do something. So I put on my brave face and went to the fields at the edge of town. I started following the harvesters, carefully picking up whatever they missed. It was backbreaking work, actually, but I didn't mind because I knew Mother and I needed food to survive. I worked hard all through the morning. Mid-morning, I saw a man walk onto the field, and he greeted everyone as he came. "Peace be with you," and everybody greeted him back. "Peace be with you." And he started walking to the foreman, and I figured out, as I heard the others saying, "That's Boaz, that's the owner." Oh, he was the owner of the field. I was worried. Maybe I'd done something wrong. But when he came over to talk to me, I was shocked because he seemed to know who I was. Yes, he knew my name. He said to me, "Listen, daughter, stay right here with us when you gather grain. Don't go to any other fields. Stay right here with the young woman working in my field. see which part of the field they go to and where they are harvesting, and then follow them. I have warned my young men not to treat you roughly, and when you are thirsty, help yourself to the water that they have drawn from the well." I fell at his feet, and I thanked him so warmly. "What have I done to deserve such kindness? I'm only a foreigner." "Yes, I know," Boaz said. "But I also know everything that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband. I have heard how you left your father and mother and your land to live here among complete strangers. May the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully for what you have done." I was completely humbled and blessed by his kindness. Truly, I had not expected such a welcome from the owner of the field. And later, when it was lunchtime, he gave me roasted grain for my lunch, so much that I had leftovers to share with Mother Naomi that night. He told me to join his harvesters every day for lunch and to eat my fill. Again, I could not believe it. In the afternoon, I found out later, he told his harvesters to pull out and leave extra heads of barley for me to gather, making it easier for me to collect the grain. By the end of the first day, I had a huge basket, 22 liters of grain after threshing it. I could hardly carry the heavy basket of blessings that God had given. And when I went home to Mother Naomi, I told her all that had happened, and she praised Yahweh. And she said, "May God bless Boaz for his kindness. He is one of our closest relatives, and he is showing us, as well as your dead husband, kindness and respect." And I praised Yahweh with her. When I was in Moab and I lost my husband, I could not imagine how I would survive the grief. But Yahweh was there. I could not imagine that I would travel to a foreign land with my mother-in-law, Naomi, and survive the skeptical looks and, yes, the gossip of the people in this new country, because I was a Moabite. But Yahweh was there. I could not imagine that I would somehow choose to glean at Boaz's field, our relative. Yahweh was there. I also did not imagine that Boaz would know who I was and would be so kind to me. Yes, Yahweh was there. And you may have guessed the rest of my story, that at the end of the wheat harvest, according to the local traditions and customs, with the help of the elders at the gate, Boaz chose to marry me, a foreigner, a girl who hadn't grown up in a family who knew Yahweh, but a family that cowered before Chemosh, a girl who had known heartache and loss, a girl who left her home country, her religion, even her family, to go with someone who needed her, and to stay even through the difficult and bitter times. A girl who never dreamed of finding love again. A girl who later gave birth to a sweet baby boy we named Obed, meaning serving and worshiping. A girl whose great-grandson would be a king, King David. A girl whose name would be recorded later by Matthew in his first chapter. Matthew 1, verse 1. This is the record of the ancestors of Jesus, the Messiah, the descendant of David and of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse was the father of David. And Jesus, the Messiah, was the descendant of David. Jesus, my great grandson. And yes, Yahweh was with me the whole time. He knew my name, and he knows yours. He is with you no matter where you've been, where your family is, whether they're near or far, whether you're grieving like Ruth, whether you're in a new country like Naomi or Ruth, or whether you're struggling to survive like Ruth, or working hard like her, or maybe even like Naomi, unable to work. Yahweh is with you. He will never leave you. I know, because that's what happened to me. Father God, we thank you that you know our names, every one of them, and you hear us when we call. Thank you for always being with us. Amen.